Is the Premier League's Big Six era truly over? Glancing at the current league table and seeing just how far Man United and Tottenham have fallen, you'd probably think so. However, the answer is more complex and open-ended than it seems. Let me explain, starting by giving you a brief history of how the term has evolved. While important in today's football discourse, the term Big Six is essentially just a label, a social construct that mirrors the constantly changing dynamics of power and prestige in English football. It represents a variation of an idea that is never fixed, continually evolving as traditional giants decline and underdogs emerge to challenge the established order. The Big Six, for instance, was popularized by Sky Sports in the early 2010s only after Manchester City clinched their first league title and Tottenham burst onto the Champions League scene in 2011, which they followed up with 11 consecutive top 6 finishes, even if silverware did not follow suit. Before this, the narrative centered around the Big Four, which itself evolved from the Big Two of Arsene Wenger's Arsenal and Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United, who together took home every league title from 1996 to 2004. Liverpool re-entered the conversation with their trophy successes in the early 2000s, while Chelsea's requalification for the Champions League in 2003 and their subsequent takeover by Roman Abramovich paved the way for the unprecedented spending that solidified their status. Looking further back to the mid-90s, the landscape of Premier League royalty featured Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, Tottenham, and Everton, all fresh from their glory days in the 1980s and instrumental in kickstarting the breakaway from the Football League. In hindsight, the current labeling of the Big Six is unlike any of its predecessors that primarily considered a club's history, on-pitch achievements, and trophy successes. If those were the sole criteria, then clubs like City and certainly Tottenham wouldn't be included in the mix. Instead, a fourth element has emerged, which is the financial prestige of clubs in today's increasingly commercialized football landscape. This makes the Big Six as much about financial performance as it is about league performance. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, subscribe so that you don't miss out on our future videos. From 2010 to 2014, the Big Six ruled with an iron fist. Aside from Leicester City's miraculous title-winning season in 2015 to 16, the dominance of the Big Six truly went unmatched well into the early 2020s. Leicester's success, while extraordinary, effectively acted as a reset for the Big Six clubs. That season was notable for being the first time in recent memory that all of these clubs experienced disappointing campaigns, leading them to revamp their squads and invest significantly to reclaim their status. The final league standings in the subsequent season painted a bleak picture from a competitive standpoint. Here, the Big Six occupied the top 6 spots, followed by 7th place Everton, who finished 8 points behind them and a whopping 15 points ahead of Southampton in 8th, who themselves were only 6 points clear of Watford in 17th place. In fact, in the 3 years following Leicester's title win in 2016, none of the chasing pack managed to even get close to the top 6. Meanwhile, at the opposite end of the spectrum, City celebrated becoming the first top-flight team in English history to exceed the 100-point mark in a single season. And the following year, both the Champions League and Europa League finals featured all Premier League matchups dominated by the top 6. Then, when Leicester looked poised to crash the top 4 again in 2019-20, with Liverpool racing ahead for the title and City comfortably in second, the onus was on the rest of the Big Six to reclaim what they felt was theirs. In the end, Brendan Rodgers' team collapsed in the final stretch of the season and finished 5th, a fate they would repeat in the following season. The 2010s were without a doubt the peak of the Big Six power axes. Yet, as a bald Dutchman from United once said, eras come to an end, and it wasn't long before most of these clubs ran into real adversity. Fast forward to today, and the Big Six are now facing more challenging tests on the pitch against the rest of the league. While the doom and gloom hanging over clubs like United and Spurs illustrate a particularly drastic season of change, the decline in their performance has certainly not happened overnight. In fact, the Big Six have only finished as the top 6 just once in the last 5 seasons. Recent surprise packages in the top 4 include Newcastle, who finished 4th in the 2022-23 season and secured a return to the Champions League after a 20-year absence. Aston Villa followed suit in the following season by edging out Tottenham to claim the last Champions League spot, a competition in which they have now automatically qualified for the knockouts. If Nottingham Forest continue their current trajectory until the end of this season, it will mark the 3rd consecutive season in which outsiders have broken into the top 4, let alone the top 6. Additionally, Newcastle, Villa, and even Bournemouth could yet force themselves into the remaining top 4 to 6 positions come the end of the campaign. This shift has been fueled by the evolving tactical side of the game that looks radically different from just a decade ago. Pep Guardiola may not have invented playing out from the back, but his influence at City has popularized this approach, inspiring the rest of the league to weave it into their identities. Take Brentford and Brighton for example. Both consistently punch above their weight, yet their passing tactics are distinctly unique. Brentford are known for their more direct and fast-paced style, while Brighton focuses on a fluid pass and move approach. Thus, with its rise in unexpected upsets, brought about by the diverse ball-playing styles and goal-scoring opportunities they create, the Premier League has become more competitive and unpredictable than ever before. As mid to bottom half table clubs close the gap on the Big Six on the pitch, the question arises, are any of them closing the gap off of it? A shift in dominance is evident, with television money from the league's lucrative broadcasting deals starting to flow to the other 14 clubs, and the profit and sustainability rules creating a more level playing field. Traditionally smaller clubs are adopting smarter recruitment strategies, while years of financial and managerial mismanagement are catching up to some of the bigger clubs. At United, the club's reckless spending in recent years, combined with the indecision surrounding Erik ten Hag from Ineos's takeover last January to his long-awaited firing in October, has significantly set them back. As for Tottenham, while Daniel Levy has done a commendable job of building a stable football club, both structurally and financially, almost every decision he has made since 2019 has backfired and led to their current struggles. To watch our videos on the crises plaguing United and Spurs, click the first 2 links in the description or the cards in the top right corner. But let's be clear, the Big Six clubs are referred to as such not only because they typically finish in those places, but because they boast the financial power to absorb setbacks and still compete for Europe each season. In the last decade, their annual revenues have steadily increased by 68.6%, despite a temporary stagnation during the pandemic. The last non-Big Six club to break into the Premier League's top 6 earners was Newcastle, all the way back to the 2007-8 season. In contrast, the Chasing Pack's average revenue has doubled in the last decade but still only represents 47.8% of the Big Six's average. The gap in absolute terms is widening, with the Big Six averaging €700 million in revenue, over 360 million more than the Chasing Pack. The separation was 250 million a decade ago. Consider Chelsea's recent spending power in the transfer window compared to Newcastle's, despite the latter benefiting from their wealthier Saudi Arabian majority owners and competing in the Champions League last year. Take Arsenal as another example. Despite missing out on lucrative UEFA broadcasting deals during their 6-year absence from the Champions League between 2017 and 2023, they still earned 366 and 388 million euros in 2021 and 2022 respectively. This illustrates just how resilient Big Six clubs have become. Even after 6 years away from the competition, the Gunners remained over 110 million euros ahead of Leicester, their closest challenger during that time. Thus, for a Big Six club to fall towards the Chasing Pack, it requires a perfect storm. One of them must miss out on Champions League football for several successive seasons while facing significant mismanagement, and one of the chasing pack must qualify for that competition in successive seasons themselves. But this is a challenge in itself, with none of the other 14 clubs having achieved back-to-back qualifications for the Champions League in over 20 years. So what do you think? Based on our interpretations of the Big Six through our on- and off-pitch lenses, do you think their dominance is still an existing reality or a thing of the past? Let us know your takes in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more football news, stories, and insights. Also, don't forget to hit notifications so you never miss a beat. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.